Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. My guest this week is Jeb Williams. Jeb is, of course, the Wildlife Division Chief here at Game and Fish. Jeb, every year about this time we get together and we talk about the big three, as it were. This year it's going to be the big two.
This year we're just going to be having an elk and a moose season. The bighorn sheep season we will not have a bighorn sheep season in 2015.
Why?
Last fall, as a lot of people know, last fall we had an issue with our northern population of bighorn sheep where they were diagnosed with bacterial pneumonia. And anytime when you're talking about pneumonia in a bighorn sheep herd, that's bad news. And any sheep managers, wild sheep managers across the nation will tell you those are the words they don't want to hear when you're in charge of managing sheep. And so, unfortunately, last fall we had, early, even in the summer months when it was first detected, and then of course it just kept getting a little bit worse as the fall went on, and it's one of those issues that we just don't know to what extent to where it will end.
Right.
That's one of the things that 2015 is going to be the concentrating on for the department is finding out what's left on the landscape out there, because you know, with our bighorn sheep population, a small part of that population, of course, is what we consider as the huntable population,
right.
The ram population, and then of course the mature rams within that ram population. So you're talking about a small percentage of the actual population that is involved with the huntable, and so.
But we did lose, for people that don't know, a lot of sheep.
We did. We knew that, of course, on some of our collared populations, we of course knew, you know, what we lost with the collared sheep. But then we also have had some other sheep in the state that in the northern part that were not all collared, and so then we don't know exactly what we lost with those. And so we know that at this point in time that you know, approximately, you know, 30, at least 30, perhaps 40% of the population was lost last fall. And so now it's going to be a matter of you know, doing a lot of field work and finding out what's left and how we move forward.
And it's going to take some time to, I guess, actually figure out how long this moratorium on sheep hunts is going to last.
Exactly. That's going to be another big part of it, Tom, is that determining if again, like we talked about earlier, if that pneumonia outbreak still continues through the population this upcoming year as well, which of course is known to do. And then again, talking about the future with any type of pneumonia outbreak is that it really impacts the lamb recruitment for the next 10 years. Right. Even in some situations even longer. And so it's a long-term management issue that the department is going to have to deal with now in the northern Badlands, much like we had to deal with the southern Badlands population after the 1997 pneumonia outbreak.
Let's move on to a brighter subject. We have moose and elk to discuss, of course. Applications are out. Let's talk about that.
For the moose and the elk, Tom, since bighorn sheep are not included this year, it is for the moose and the elk are for residents only. Of course, we're seeing a lot of people apply online, which is, you know, very much encouraged, and every year we're seeing that increase a little bit more and more.
Speaking of increases, we had a price increase here a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and people, of course, notice that with the deer as well. You know, going to $30, and I think people, you know, for the most part, have been very understanding, accepting of that. That hasn't changed in a lot of years, and people have been good about that and wanting to support the department in a lot of different ways.
Unlike deer, though, this is a non-refundable application.
Yeah, that's correct. It's a $5 non-refundable application fee that people have to put in for that, and then of course if they are successful, then they have to pay that the fee for the actual license.
Sure. We get calls every year from people wanting to know why we don't do a preference point lottery like we do for deer, turkey, a lot of other game, and we do have a good reason why we don't.
Yeah, you know, it has been hashed over a lot, and when you run the numbers, there's really no statistical advantage for a preference point system or a bonus point system for those species. There's so few licenses available, and you have so many people applying that really there would be very little advantage that anyone would gain by going to that. The only thing that it would absolutely do is it probably would make it real certain that no youngster hunter coming into the application pool would receive a license.
Sure.
And so that's, I think when you weigh the things out and you provide the information, I think most people agree that it's probably just better off a true lottery, and you put your name in the hat, and if you come out ahead, that's great.
More and more people every year are catching on to the fact that there is a way that you can increase your odds of being drawn for one of these once in a lifetime tag.
Yeah, absolutely. For the people that want to hunt, either elk or moose in North Dakota, but maybe aren't as caught up in having that once in a lifetime bull license, there are some cow opportunities out there for both elk and moose now this year that people can significantly increase their odds of drawing a license in some of those units that offer cow licenses. And so people that want that experience to be able to hunt one of those big game species in North Dakota and have that chance, and if they're not worried about the antlers on top of their head, they have a much increased chance of applying for that cow license.
Well, let's break it down and talk about each species individually, how the herd is doing and stuff. Let's start with moose.
You bet. Moose, moose have kind of rewritten the book as far as where moose belong in North Dakota, as far as the traditional habitat goes. In the northern part of the state, that's kind of been the traditional habitat for moose. We have a couple of units up there that are still closed down because of the lack of moose populations, but we've also seen kind of the migration of moose to other parts of the state, more of a prairie moose population, specifically in the northwest part of the state. When you're talking about units M9 and M10, the numbers appear to be doing fairly well in those areas. We have some research going on that's showing that cow survival is very good and calf survival is very good, and we have a growing population of moose in those areas. And so we've added actually some additional moose licenses to those areas, and specifically some cow licenses in both M10 and M9. So last year we had 111 total moose licenses. This year we're going to have 131 moose licenses, and so that's a good thing. And it's the research that has gone along with that has really helped the department make some of those decisions in regards to moose survival in some of these real non-traditional moose habitat areas.
Harvest statistics kind of bear out what you're saying too, that we do have a very active population.
We do. There's no doubt about that. The harvest success has been very good in those areas, which usually is good for moose, though. I mean, our harvest, that's one of the things you always have to be careful about with moose, is that they're not a particularly hard animal to harvest. Once you find them, they're not a particularly hard. So we usually see high harvest success rate for moose in areas, and so that's again why you have to be careful. Is that literally, if you have 10 moose left in a particular unit, you could very easily harvest all 10 of those animals. And so, but yeah, harvest success rate in some of those areas has been very high, and we've been talking with, of course, our enforcement division and landowners and hearing that as well. So, and the research that goes along with it has been very beneficial to help guide us in that decision process.
You mentioned that moose are not particularly hard to harvest after you find them. A whole different ballgame with elk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt that, but what's interesting in North Dakota is we still have a very high success rate when comparing that, to other states. Other states, if you have a, 20 to 25% success rate for elk, you're doing pretty good. And now, again, obviously some of our terrain is different, and, versus some of the mountain states, that type of thing. But, when we give out the once-in-a-lifetime licenses, and I think that's a good thing that you see those high harvest success rates. That means when you're giving somebody that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, you're giving them a good chance at harvesting that animal. We never want to say that anybody's going to have a guarantee, but it's nice that they're going to have a nice opportunity if they work hard and do their homework to be able to have success at that. And the success rate for elk has shown that is exactly the case.
Elk populations are doing well now. How does that manifest itself in the number of licenses?
Yeah, they appear to be doing well, Tom. In the northeast part of the state, we've been working with some landowners that have been reporting some increasing number of elk in the western part of the unit and even in the southern part of the unit. And it's kind of a unique area up there where we actually have a true migratory elk population in that part of the state. And so we think there's some more opportunity to be had up there, and so we've increased licenses in that unit. And then also we've added 10 antlerless licenses in Unit E3, where we've actually heard of some individuals now that are having some problems with elk out there, and you know, everybody was a little unknown when the Theodore Roosevelt National Park elk reduction plans started happening as far as what was going to remain on the outskirts of the park. And so far things appear to be doing well. We don't have as many elk out in that area, but for the people that draw a license, they still have a good opportunity of success. And so we're seeing that, and we're actually going to adding 10 cow licenses to the mix in 2015.
Would you say that anyone that gets drawn, whether it be moose or elk, and like you mentioned, if they put in the time and do their homework, that they're going to see game?
Yes, I would say that. I mean, again, it's hard for me to guarantee that, but it is.
Well, you can't guarantee anything.
If you know, for people that you know, that put in the time and do their homework, make some contacts, people will have an opportunity to be successful with harvesting an elk or a moose.
All right, Jeb, thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
There are several ways you can apply for the Moose and Elk Lottery. You can log on to the Game and Fish website at gf.nd.gov and follow the links to the lottery application, fill it out, and pay the non-refundable fee by credit card, or you can fill out the paper application for one of these once-in-a-lifetime licenses, pay the fee by check, and mail it into the Game and Fish Department at 100 North Bismarck Expressway, Bismarck 58501. The deadline to apply for the lottery is Wednesday, March 25th. For Jeb Williams and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.